What's up, guys? So last week I was in Italy, and when I was there and right before I left, I remembered this thing I used to use in college that I haven't really looked at anytime recently, but I remembered it when I was in Italy, and it gave me the idea to make this video. And it was just this thing called Stoicism that really helped me a lot in college. And yeah, when I was looking at all the ancient monuments and ancient buildings in Verona, it made me think, damn, how much did Stoicism play a part in building all of this? Because a lot of the political figures and emperors of Rome used Stoicism, so it just really made me think. So Stoicism is a ancient philosophy that started many years ago, but people today still use it. But Stoicism started because a person called Zeno, he was sailing and he lost his whole life fortune, I think in paint. I'm not 100% sure what it was, but yeah, he lost his whole life savings in a shipwreck, and that's where he came up with the concept of Stoicism. And something about Zeno is he's actually from Cyprus, which is where my family is originally from, so yeah, just a little fun fact. But yeah, later Stoicism was passed down to many other people, and eventually political figures and emperors of Rome would use it. And I think the most famous Stoic of all is Marcus Aurelius. If you saw the movie Gladiator, he was the emperor in that movie, and you've probably just heard his name in history class and whatnot. But the mindset he had is still being taught even today. So I was first introduced to Stoicism by my friend Victor during quarantine. Like when we would FaceTime, we would just talk about all the things we've learned and just what's going on, and he was just telling me about this new thing he came across called Stoicism. I didn't really think too much of it when he told me at the time. I decided to look into it after I got to college, and I was playing JUCO football, and I was dealing with things like injuries and the little bumps and bruises you get from playing football, and just dealing with the workload you have from being a student athlete. It was just a very big contrast. I went from quarantine to just chilling all day and basically doing nothing other than a workout and my homework when I needed to actually being a student athlete and having to go to class, having to go to practice meetings, weight training, and all that. So yeah, it was just a big change for me, and I needed some help with it. And also just the little things, like I didn't have a car in college, so I had to walk everywhere, which was a little bit inconvenient. And just little stuff like relationships with girls and just a lot of shenanigans going on. But yeah, that's when I looked into Stoicism, and I started doing things like watching a lot of Ryan Holiday's videos. I'd watch a lot of his videos when I was in college, and just learning about the proper ways to approach things and the proper perspective to have on things. And later I got my really good friend a book that he mentioned called The Daily Stoic. I decided to get him that for his birthday, and he would actually send me the pages in it, and I was like, wow, this is really good, and I would reread them. And even today, sometimes I go onto my camera roll and find the screenshots I took of it and reread them. And every time I'm in a Target, I'll go to the book section, pick up this book, and read today's Daily Stoic. And yeah, I'm gonna just be honest, I did buy Seneca's book Letters of a Stoic, and I was reading it, but eventually I did stop just because I got sidetracked by other things. But now I'm making this video, I should really go back and finish it. And the parts that I did read was actually really, really good. But yeah, I'm just letting you guys know, I'm not expert on the subject. I have done my fair share of reading and study on it, but if you want an expert, you should go check out Ryan Holiday's channel. I'll link his channel in the description below, of course. So one of the big Stoic lessons that really helped me was controlling what you can. I think the Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, but yeah, I'm not really sure what dichotomy means, so I'm not gonna say that. But I think it just basically means, controlling what you can. And that's something my head coach would always tell us in junior college. But if you play sports in college or sports at any time, you're gonna have to deal with stuff like having injuries or having a really bad practice. And when it happens, it can be kind of overwhelming, damn, what do I do? But with this Stoic concept of controlling what you can, there's actually a lot of stuff you could do. For example, if you have an injury, you can't really go back and change the past, or you can't control the future. You don't really know how long exactly it's gonna take to heal. But you can do things like rehabbing it properly, keeping the rest of your body strong, so when you do come back, it'll be a smoother transition. And other things like eating enough protein so your body could heal, and getting enough sleep. And if you need a video on how to sleep better, I actually have one. I'll link it up here and I'll put it at the end of the video. So yeah, doing all of that stuff is in your control. And when you have a bad practice, you can't go back and change that practice, but you can do things like prepare for the next one and learning what you did wrong when you go home and watch the film for that practice that day. Same thing with a game. And same thing when it comes to games or scrimmages. You can't control the future, but you can control how you prepare for it and whatnot. So yeah, the concept that the Stoics and what my head coach for junior college football would always say, controlling what you control is very important. And just a side note, one thing that really helps me when something bad happens, whether it's a bad practice or an injury, or even today when something bad happens, it could really be anything, but just simply writing it down, writing down what you're gonna do. It helps just seeing on paper all the stuff you can do. Recently, I just hurt my rib, so I was feeling overwhelmed, damn, I can't do this this or that because I do martial arts right now. But what helped was just writing down all the stuff I can do. Like I could still shadow box. I could still do a bunch of different exercises. Like some hurt, but there's still a lot I can do. I could still study martial arts all I want to. So yeah, just writing down all the stuff you do have control over really helps a lot. So another Stoic lesson is not using your feelings to make decisions. This is where people get confused with Stoicism. Like a lot of people think Stoicism is just, bottling up your emotions until you eventually kill yourself. And that's definitely not what it is. When Stoic people say like you should not use your emotions to make decisions, or like some people say be emotionless, they just mean making decisions corresponding to your virtues or your goals or whatever is more important, which is something that I totally agree with. This first part of the quote by Seneca really reminds me of something one of my coaches used to say. He would always say the anticipation is usually a lot worse than the action. And my coach said that as an example to tackling people in football. Like you usually think it's gonna hurt really badly, but then you do it and it's not really that bad. Same thing with a lot of other things. And the rest of this quote, make decisions based on reason, not on emotional reactions. Like when you wake up in the morning and you have practice that day, sometimes you could feel like, damn, I really don't want to do this. Or if you have an optional workout on the weekend, which really is mandatory, they just say optional because legally they're not allowed to have a certain amount of practices during a week. Even if I didn't feel like going, I'd still have to because, I am trying to get better at football and whatnot. And same thing when it comes to working out with friends. Like if you agree to work out with a friend and like an hour before you're about to go work out, you don't feel like doing it, you still got to do it anyway because, if you want to get better at your sport or you want to get in better shape, you still got to do it. And this doesn't just apply to training, it also applies to other things. Like if it's a day before a game or a scrimmage and you're lactose intolerant but you're really craving cheesecake, just because you feel like eating cheesecake and your emotions want you to eat cheesecake doesn't mean you should do it. And instead you should eat food that's going to digest well, even if you don't feel like it, because that's what's going to be better for your future self, and in the long run it will be a much better decision. And this concept of not letting your emotions make your decisions applies to many other things too, even in like everyday life. A really good example of this is when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Even if someone makes you mad and you feel like slapping someone, that doesn't mean you should go do it, because obviously that one thing kind of ruined his career a little bit. And not just that, but also if you're feeling sad and you feel sad and you want to feel happy, that doesn't mean you should just go do drugs. Like that would obviously be bad for you in the long run. And there's plenty of other emotions you shouldn't make decisions based off of, because the ironic thing is you'll be happier in the long run if you don't make decisions based off your feelings. I honestly don't think I explained this as well as I wanted to, but I think you guys get the concept. The third lesson I got from Stoicism was understanding that I'm going to have to deal with difficult people. In Marcus Aurelius's journal Meditations, he would write to himself, like letting him know in the morning that he's going to have to deal with difficult people. And I didn't do this, but just the mindset of that really helped me a lot. And in JUCO, I did have to deal with a decent amount of difficult people. For example, one of the equipment managers was known for kind of being a little bit short and a little bit rude with people. One of the first interactions I had was, I had really big knee pads that were like massive, that was like designed for linemen. And I asked to like switch them out for smaller ones, and I was like, do you have any smaller knee pads? And he was like, nope, you're at a JUCO, and just turned his back to me. I was a little bit confused when it happened, but when I went back and told like a veteran teammate about what happened, he was just like, yeah, he's like that with everyone. And I think I handled it pretty well. I was just like, oh, okay, never mind, and walked away, and eventually asked my friend for some smaller knee pads. But yeah, some of my teammates, when he was rude to them, they would end up talking back to him, and that just isn't the smartest idea, because if you're in junior college, you're going to be there from at least 1 to 2 years. So you'll be interacting with him a lot, and he kind of does have the power to make your life a lot more difficult by giving you worse equipment. If you play football, about having a bucket helmet, and your equipment manager is in control of giving you a nice helmet or a bucket. For people that don't play football, a bucket helmet is just a helmet that's not as good. So yeah, I had a friend that talked back to him, and he ended up with a bucket helmet for spring training. But, with me, I didn't talk back to him, so I had a decent helmet. But I actually did talk to him, like, other times, and he was a nice guy. It's just, I feel like he has to deal with so many people. He doesn't have the patience to be nice and cordial to all of them. But this isn't just for equipment managers. Like, if you're on a college football team, there's usually around 100 players on that team, and it's just very unlikely you're gonna like all 100 of them. Like, if you go into a room with 100 people, there's bound to be a few you don't really get along with. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Ryan Holiday actually has a really, really good video about dealing with difficult people, which I'll put in the description. So fourth lesson is no complaining. So when I was playing football, coaches would always talk about these things called locker room lawyers. And it's basically people that in the locker room, they'll like plead their case on why they're not getting playing time or why someone is starting over them. Like they'll say things like, oh yeah, he's only starting over me because he knows coach from high school. Or they'll say things like, oh yeah, coach doesn't like me because of my ethnicity, which I've heard people say a decent amount of times. But yeah, it's totally normal. Like you don't just hear this in football football. Like you hear this in other sports, and you also hear it in like school. Like, oh yeah, the teacher doesn't like me because of this or because of that, and that's why I have a bad grade. And it's the same thing in any situation where you'll have a boss. But yeah, locker room lore is just basically people that make excuses and complain about their situation. But yeah, this goes back to the first lesson of the dichotomy of control. You should really just control what you could control instead of focusing on your coach's opinions. You should just focus on what you could do to get better as an athlete. Like fix the things you're struggling with and, be better in practice. And usually you'll end up getting to where you want to be. And I think it's perfectly fine to just go up to your coach and just straight up ask, like, hey, what could I do to get more playing time or more reps in practice? And I think it's perfectly fine to do that as long as you do it in the right way and, you don't keep asking him and whatnot. And it's also not just more practical to not complain and focus on the things you can control. But with people that complain a lot, it's just something very exhausting about being near them. But yeah, my coach would always say, no problems, only solutions. And, it's pretty much the same thing as not complaining, which is what the Stoics say. Last lesson is not letting your bed be a coffin. In Meditations, it also talked about how Marcus Aurelius would say he has to get up after he's had enough sleep and not just laying in bed even if he felt like it. And this really, really resonated with me because the first 2 weeks when I went to college, if I wasn't in practice or in class or eating, I would just be in my bed doom scrolling, just on TikTok doing the scroll of death. And I'll just do this with any free time I had. So yeah, for the first 2 weeks, I just felt really, really bad. But yeah, later on, I did more productive things like reading books or doing extra work for football or school, and just more fulfilling things like, actually going outside and doing stuff. But yeah, Marcus Aurelius was against just laying in bed. So think about how bad he would have thought just laying in bed, doom scrolling, looking at stupid stuff on TikTok was. But yeah, another reason why you shouldn't just lay in bed and doom scroll is because, Matt Walker, a neuroscientist that specializes in sleep, he talks about how your brain associates certain places with certain things. So when you lay in bed, it should be for sleeping. But if you do other things in bed, your brain will think, oh, it's time to doom scroll. Let's like wake up so I have enough energy to look at this stuff and whatnot. That's also why it's not a good idea to do your homework in bed too. But yeah, last lesson is just making sure you get out of bed once you've had enough sleep and, not letting your bed be a coffin. But if you've never learned about Stoicism before, I hope this video made you a little bit more interested in it. If you want to learn more about it, I'm going to link Ryan Holiday's channel in it, along with some videos of his that I like. And luckily for us, the original founders of Stoicism would write about it too, and their books are still around today. Like the big three that Ryan Holiday always talks about was Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, and all three of them have books that you could probably find at any Barnes and Nobles. And yeah, after making this video, I will read a little bit more of Letters of a Stoic. But I appreciate you guys watching till the end. I didn't explain the points as well as I wanted to, but again, just something I'm going to get better at over time. But if you like this video, you'll also like another video I made, 5 key traits from President Snow for achieving goals, that I'll link somewhere here. And also, if you want more sleep tips, I made a video about how to sleep better that I'll put right here too. But yeah, I'm still in the early stages of getting better at YouTube, and I'm not really worried too much about the subscriber count or the like count right now. But it'd still be really awesome if you left a like or a comment. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.